achieving the first solar flight around the world. This is the story of two men. Bertrand Piccard, psychiatrist and explorer, and André Borschberg, engineer and entrepreneur. A team driven by a vision of the future and a passion for innovation. And the first airplane of perpetual endurance, able to fly day and night without fuel. Together with their partners, they wanted to show the power of pioneering spirit and clean technologies to bring solutions for a better world. Solar Impulse, the adventure showing that change is possible.
It's a bit the moment of truth, because you simulate, you calculate, you imagine, but there is nothing like testing and doing it in real.
We deeply believe that we can achieve impossible and incredible things with renewable energies, like flying around the world with no fuel. And if this works, of course, everybody can do it on the ground to make a cleaner world. And this can be your way to be with us in the plane.
And this was a scene in Abu Dhabi early this Monday.
Dans ce journal également,
The fact it is now ultralight plane is powered only by the sun's rays.
Between March and July 2015, Bertrand Piccard and André Borschberg flew without a drop of fuel from Abu Dhabi to Oman, across the Arabian Sea to India, Myanmar, China, Japan, and over the Pacific to Hawaii.
How are you feeling after all that time? You broke a world record in terms of solo flight a few hours ago.
Resuming the round-the-world adventure in April 2016, Solar Impulse continued from Hawaii to California and New York, across the Atlantic to Spain, then Egypt, and made it back successfully to Abu Dhabi in July. Today the challenge is no longer to conquer the moon. The challenge is to conquer quality of life on Earth. Our world desperately needs the implementation of clean technologies to reduce the energy consumption and the waste of natural resources.
Hotel India Bravo, turning final, 02 right.
This airplane was not built to carry passengers, but to carry a message. The world could reduce half of its CO2 emissions by replacing old polluting devices with new clean technologies, like those used on Solar Impulse.
I am inspired by your pioneering spirit.
You know, Mr. Secretary General, if an airplane like Solar Impulse can fly day and night without fuel, the world, of course, can be much cleaner.
Inspiring generations, promoting innovative solutions to the challenges of humanity, inventing a brighter future. Solar energy made it possible to fly many days and nights in a row without fuel, crossing 2 oceans and remaining airborne longer than any jet plane in history. 2016 has seen the completion of this pioneering adventure, flying 40,000 kilometers round the world without a single drop of fuel.
More than an achievement in the history of aviation, Solar Impulse has made an achievement in the history of energy. Let's take it further.
Like Solar Impulse, the clean tech revolution has taken off, presenting new ways of thinking and doing to achieve the impossible. And you can be a part of it.
Dear friends, good morning. As innovators, what can we tell the world? I think we should tell the world that to achieve important goals, to change the status quo, it's not enough to have new ideas. We need to observe what are the paradigms that make believe that we cannot do more and change the paradigm. This is usually what opens the door to the future, because we are prisoners of old ways of thinking, old ways of doing, and we believe that the future will be an extrapolation of our past, which is wrong. When my great-grandfather installed the first telephone in Switzerland, he was a professor in the University of Basel. He called his colleagues, made the demonstration, turned the handle, and called his wife to say he would be late for lunch. And his colleagues, who were all professors of university, said, "It's very nice, but it has no future." Why that? These people were not stupid. But the paradigm of that time was that you would need telephonic lines, cables, between every house and every house in the world, even connecting houses of people who have never met, who don't know each other, because maybe one day they would need to call each other, which makes billions of cables. You would not even see the sky. Of course, you cannot do that. What was the change of paradigm? It was the introduction of the operating center, with a man or a woman connecting lines together. So you actually just needed one line from every house to an operating center. So the person who made the revolution in the telecommunication is not the inventor of the telephone. It's the inventor of the operating center. And we should always try to see, in everything we do, what is the limiting factor that we have to break through. When I wanted to make the first flight around the world non-stop in a balloon, what was the paradigm? The longest flight in a balloon was 6 days for a gas balloon. It was 2 days for a hot air balloon. Of course, you can never do 20 days, except if you change the type of balloon. You don't take a gas balloon, you don't take a hot air balloon, you make a hybrid balloon where you have propane heaters to warm up the helium, and then you can combine the two, and we could fly for 20 days. Of course, it was quite the limit, because from the 3.7 tons of liquid propane I had at the start, there was 40 kilos left. No margin. 2 hours of margin after 20 days. So we were at the limit of this new paradigm. It was the longest flight unrefueled in history. But if you want to do more, what's the limiting factor? It's the fuel. So get rid of the fuel. If you don't need to refuel, you can stay in the air forever. You can have an airplane that collects the energy from the sun, transforms it into electricity to feed electric motors, charge batteries, and you use the battery at night to reach the next sunrise. And once you do one cycle, of course, you can do all the cycles you want and stay in the air theoretically forever. Well, when the pilot is too old, you have to bring it down. But when I presented this idea to the world of aviation, they told me it was completely impossible. They took 5 minutes to calculate how much energy we would get from the sun, and they said, it's not enough to fly day and night. And we told them, yes, but we are going to work not on the energy production, we're going to work on the energy consumption, on the energy efficiency. We cannot switch on more power from the sun, but we can switch off all the waste, all the losses of energy of the plane. And for this, we need 72-meter wingspan, bigger than a jumbo jet, but lighter than a family car. And then they said, it's impossible. You cannot be so light. And we said, why? And they said, because it has never been done. And we said, it's precisely why we have to do it, otherwise it will always remain impossible. But we had to build a structure that was 10 times lighter, proportionally, to the best competition glider in the world. Not 10% lighter, 10 times lighter. So of course, they thought it was completely impossible. So we had to find people who did not know it was impossible, and that was a shipyard. The shipyard who built the hulls of Alinghi, who won the America's Cup for Switzerland twice in a row. So interesting to see that these people knew how to use light structures, even for aviation. They had never built an airplane, but they could make it as light as we wanted. For the funding, it was exactly the same, and for the technologies, it was exactly the same. I thought I would have the help of the world of aviation. No. Help from the world of energy. No. Who came? Chemistry, insurance, watches, elevators, Google, Swisscom, Altran, for the team, not for the plane. Moet NC, we also needed to celebrate a bit. But what was so interesting was that all these companies had nothing to do in the world of aviation, but they were interested by innovation. They knew precisely that because they had no knowledge, no expertise in what we were doing, they would have to stimulate their innovators. They had to stimulate their internal way of thinking. And they actually provided the technologies we needed, the materials, the connectors, the engines, the LED lamps, the softwares. They provided everything we needed, the insulation of the plane. And all these things now are on the market. All these technologies are now available for everybody on the market. And for me, it was a little bit of a shock in the beginning. I thought, well, that's really strange. Nobody from the world of the specialist. And then I remembered that in the 19th century, it was not the people selling the best candles who invented the light bulb. It's somebody completely different. In the world of automotive, the first real successful electric car was not made by a car manufacturer. It was made by a billionaire from the world of internet who had no idea how to make a car. And this is why he had the spirit and the heart open enough to make something new. So we see that innovation very often comes from outside of the system. And innovation is not a new idea we have. Innovation is an old belief, an old paradigm that we leave behind. And then we can move ahead. And this is what we did. At the end, we had an airplane capable of perpetual flight. And imagine how it feels. You are in the middle of an ocean. You fly for several days and several nights in a row. You look at the sun, which is your only source of energy. You look at your 4 electrical motors on your left and your right, with huge propellers turning very, very slowly. There is no noise, no pollution, no fuel, and you can fly forever. And then suddenly you think, wow, I'm already in the future. This is science fiction. But actually, not at all. It's the present. It's what the current technologies of today allow today. And then you understand that it's the rest of the world that is in the past. The rest of the world that is still using old devices, old technologies, old systems that are 100 or 150 years old. Thermal engines, badly insulated houses, incandescent light bulbs, heating and cooling systems that are from another age, industrial processes that are completely outdated, distribution grids that are absolutely inefficient, losing more than half of the energy they transport. Is this what we want? But this is what we have. So we are very demanding on the latest computer or the latest smartphone. But why do we agree to keep all this old stuff? You know the answer? Because it's allowed. It's allowed to use it. It's allowed to pollute. It's allowed to put all the CO2 you want in the atmosphere. So why should we change? Why should we do differently? Well, this is exactly why we need today a pioneering spirit in the political world. We have it in the European Commission, and Maroš Šefčovič has showed it, and I know him since years, and I know him and his colleagues, how they are pushing. But on the national levels, there is such a fear, there is such a lack of ambition. And this is what we absolutely have to change. So Solar Impulse has been like an ambassador of renewable energies, but much more than that. It's an ambassador for clean technologies. Everything we can do today. So the message that you heard at the end of the film, and that I really want to emphasize today, is not just the fact that this airplane was the first to fly electric and solar around the world. No, the message is we have to take it further. It's only a beginning. And for me, it was absolutely clear that the technologies that could make Solar Impulse fly around the world are available for everybody. And much more than that, all the technologies that we need already exist. But where are they? They are in universities, in labs, in startups, in the mind of genius innovators. Sometimes they are also already big companies. But they are not yet enough on the market. They are not used enough. And this is why, for me, the goal of taking it further is to select 1,000 solutions that are economically profitable to protect the environment and bring them to heads of states, to mayors, to key decision makers in order to oblige them to use the reality of what is existing today into the creation of the legal framework. Because the legal framework today is based on, at minima, negotiations between parties, between competing countries, and they look for the smallest common denominator where they can all agree. And the result is the complete lack of ambition into the legal framework for houses, for cars, for industrial systems, for grid, for everything. Imagine that they can have 1,000 solutions in a catalog, in a list, which shows the reality of today. And they can base their legal framework on the reality and not on the minima negotiations. So we see how important it is today, all together, to stop thinking like this, to stop thinking in a straight line, to stop thinking like if the past was coming into the future. Why do we do that? Usually because we're afraid of the unknown, we're afraid of the doubts, we're afraid of the changes, so we don't want to look left or right. We don't want to hear what other people have to say. We're afraid of contradiction, we're afraid of disruption, and we just go straight ahead until we jump into an obstacle. And then we think, why is life so bad with me? Instead of asking, why am I not ready for life? So the way to be ready for life, but you know it because you are innovators, otherwise you wouldn't be here, is to think in every direction, not just one direction. To have all the options open. To understand that when we drop the paradigm, when we drop what makes the impossible impossible, when we forget that, when we change our mindset, when we are pioneers, when we're explorers, suddenly we have so many options going everywhere. And our task is just to pick the one that brings us to the direction that we wish. This is why I believe that life can be like a firework. For every point in 3 dimensions, that means every way of thinking, every behavior, we have one line that goes somewhere. This is the situation in which we have to put ourselves. This is what InnoEnergy is doing for innovators. I admire so much what you're doing, and this is why I'm so happy that we are now making a collaboration that we will sign this morning. The goal is to link our strike powers, because a lot of people ask me now, what is your new project? Well, I don't have a new project in the air. Now, the Solar Impulse Foundation has created the World Alliance for Efficient Solutions. This World Alliance wants to bring together the startups, the innovators, the big companies, the institutions, foundations, whoever has a product, a process, a system, a clean technology that can protect the environment in a profitable way. I insist on profitable way, because for years, the protection of the environment was just a dream, because the way the ecologists were working was to threaten the lifestyle, the comfort, the mobility, the consumption, and the growth of our society. And of course, it does not work. People don't want to have less, they want to have better. So it needs to be profitable. And we also need to speak the language of the people we want to motivate. We cannot go to the industry and say you have to stop. They have hundreds of thousands of salaries to pay at the end of the month. How can they stop? It's us that would stop. No, we need to speak the language of economy, the language of finance, the language of growth to the people who can mass produce what we are inventing. We have to make an alliance with the industry, with the economy and the political world. And this will pull the innovation, because it's clear that we know that we can push innovation. We can put subsidies, we can put a lot of money, and maybe at the end there will be some innovators having genius products. But imagine that we pull it. Imagine that we create a need. Imagine that the governments would be extremely ambitious in their energy and environmental policy, that they would put incredibly hard targets to reach. Well, it will just pull all of us. It would pull our innovations. It will pull our solutions to the market, because they will be needed. It will be just a request from the world to have your products coming to the consumer. This is, I believe, a really interesting collaboration that now we can create with InnoEnergy and with all of you, because we are offering, free of charge, because we have our own partners, we are offering the expertise of the solutions of our members to raise the credibility. We're offering relations with investors in order to help them to grow. And we are promoting these solutions at the political level. So we see that it's really a synergy that we're going to sign later on. And I think it will be extremely interesting to offer this on a worldwide level. The next flight around the world will not be with a solar airplane. It will be with a catalog of your solutions, of the solutions of the members, to bring to the heads of state. So for the future, we have a choice to do, a little bit like on this picture here. That's the last picture I did when I flew around the world non-stop in a balloon. It's a window of the capsule, frozen by the moisture of the night, and on the other side there is a rising sun. But we will never see the rising sun if we don't first go through the ice. And so many people are afraid to go through the ice. So many people have ice in their life. They have doubts, they have problems, they have crises, and they are afraid to deal with that. So they stop, and they prefer to suffer in the ice they know, rather than to take the risk of going through the ice and see what there is on the other side. So what we have to do as innovators, what we have to do here, the people in this room, the people who love what we do, the people who want to innovate, who want to change the world for the better, we have to motivate as many people as we can to be the pioneers and the explorers, to change the mindset, to show that all the problems linked to climate change today are fantastic opportunities for further development, to have a clean growth that is so much better than a dirty status quo. The clean growth, sometimes the ecologists are fighting against growth, but if you replace all the old polluting systems by new modern clean technologies, it's the biggest industrial market that humankind ever had. And it would go cleaner and cleaner as much as more and more profitable. So we see that we have a unique opportunity to bring together the extremes, to bridge ecology and economy, and to make a common goal to go through the ice and make a better future on the other side. This is why the crisis we have today can be lived as an adventure. Because a crisis that we accept to deal with becomes an adventure. It's only the adventure that we refuse that remains a crisis. And this is up to us to decide if life is there to destroy us or to challenge us to be better. We know here in this room that life is here to challenge us to be better. But so many people in the rest of the world don't know it. And this is the message we have to bring them. Thank you very much.